I'm 53 years old. And one of the hardest things that it is for me to see today is watching my parents. They're both nearly 80 years old. Watching them struggle to make it. My mother, 2 years ago, had to go get a job. Nearly 80 years old. She works at a fast food restaurant. Works about 20 hours a week. Comes home, she can barely move. My dad, he went to work. He had to go back to work as well. He only worked about 2 months because his body, couldn't take it. And they struggle because they're on a fixed income. Then I look at my children. I've got 3 sons that are in their 20s. And they all struggle. They at one time, all 3 lived together and had another roommate just to survive. And that's been in the last 3 years. And then I look back over 4 years ago. My parents were able to live without either of them working, both retired, because food wasn't as costly, utilities weren't as costly, gasoline wasn't as costly. Basically every aspect of life wasn't as costly as it is today. My oldest son, who's 28, he actually lived on his own in a 2-bedroom apartment. And the other 2, they weren't quite out of the house yet, so they didn't get to experience life under Trump. They've only experienced life under Biden as an adult. And it is so disheartening to look at my parents and how hard they have worked their entire lives. They retired. They were able to relax, go do things. They have not went and done anything in the last 3+ years. To them now, you know what they do to celebrate things? They jump in the car and they go to where my mom works at a fast food joint and get an ice cream. And the only reason they do that is because they take it out of her check. They don't have to have the money for it. My mom has just got to work basically an extra hour for them to sit together, enjoy each other's company, and have an ice cream. And then the realization of my sons are they'll probably never get to go on vacation. The struggles that they're having right now. Probably will never be able to own a home. The American dream is kind of dead now. And I just look at how life was so much different just 4 years ago. And that was with a pandemic going on. When I make this content, I'm not here to try to convince anybody to vote a certain way. My whole purpose is to get people to think by sharing my own personal stories. You got to vote for what you feel is best for you. That's why I'd never sit here and try to convince anybody that you need to vote for Trump over Biden or vice versa. All I can do is compare what life was like under Trump, what life has been like under Biden, because we have the history to look back at. And a lot of people said things about Trump, and rightfully so, on a lot of stuff. But the thing that I never heard anybody talk about was they're struggling to pay bills. They're struggling to pay for groceries. They're struggling to pay utilities. They're struggling to pay rent. They can't buy a home because interest rates were up. Gas was too high. None of that was ever a talking point with Trump. Ever. It was always the other stuff. And now we have it to where everybody's struggling. When I compare those 4 years under Trump to what we've had 3+ years under Biden, for me, it's a no-brainer because I see how life was versus how life is. And we do live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. And there's been a lot of accusations against Trump that have found to be unfounded. And I am willing, at this point, to let that play out in court and see what happens. If he's guilty, well, that does change things. But you know what? He's not going to be able to be president if he's convicted of what he's been charged with. So he's not going to be in office anyway, even if he was elected. And if he's found guilty, innocent, well then, that's just more unfounded accusations against Trump. I do want it to go to court, because that way we will find the truth. But even if Trump had nothing against him, and Biden had nothing against him, and I just look at how life has been under both of them, Trump will get my vote easily. Because it is so disheartening to see my parents go through what they have gone through. It is so disheartening to see my children struggle the way they have in the last 3+ years. And then I think to myself, good God, what if we did not get a tax cut while Trump was in office? With everybody struggling the way they are today, we would have had less money. The struggle would be even greater. Those are the things that I look at when I'm deciding who to vote for. I just hope you can find that reason to vote for somebody. Don't find a reason to vote against somebody. You're looking at things entirely wrong if that's the way you're viewing things. Do I wish we had two completely different candidates? Yes. I think that nobody should be elected that is over 70 years old. But that's a whole different TikTok. Find a reason for you to vote for somebody. Don't vote against somebody. That is the wrong way to take your right to vote. You're wasting it if that's the case. You got to vote for what is best interest for you, not for somebody else. I do not like seeing my parents struggle. I don't like seeing my kids struggle. I don't like struggling. I would rather take on both of their struggles than for them to. I can't do that. The only way I can change their struggles is by voting for Donald Trump this time around.